The camera shutter clicks one final time. Through the viewfinder, a wall of gray flesh fills the frame. Tusks like ancient spears, eyes burning with something humans mistake for calmness. The ground trembles, dust rises in slow motion. And in that frozen moment between heartbeat and chaos, Glenn Turner realizes he has made a mistake he will never get the chance to regret. The elephant charges. The dream vacation becomes a nightmare, and paradise reveals its true face. Some people spend their entire lives chasing the perfect moment. That one photograph that captures not just an image, but a feeling, a memory, a piece of eternity frozen in time. Glenn Turner was one of those people. He lived for the shot that others missed, the angle no one else dared to take, the closeness that separated amateurs from artists. But in the wild plains of Kenya, where nature writes its own rules in blood and dust, that hunger for perfection would cost him everything. This is the story of a man who got too close,
a warning display.
A beast that gave too many warnings, and a single moment that divided before from after. Glenn Turner was 42 years old when he died. But if you asked anyone who knew him, they would tell you he lived more in those 42 years than most people do in 80. He was a man of passion, a man of obsession. Born in Adelaide, Australia, Glenn grew up in a world of bright sunshine and endless beaches, but his heart belonged somewhere else entirely. Africa. Since he was a boy flipping through National Geographic magazines in his childhood bedroom, he dreamed of the savannah, the lions, the elephants, the raw, untamed beauty of a continent that refused to be conquered. His parents thought it was just a phase. Kids love animals, they said. He'll grow out of it. But Glenn never did. He studied photography at university, worked odd jobs to save money, and spent every spare dollar on camera equipment. His apartment walls were covered with prints, cheetahs mid-sprint, elephants at watering holes, sunsets bleeding orange and red over the Serengeti. His friends called him obsessed. His girlfriend called him distant. But Glenn called it purpose. While other men his age bought houses and started families, Glenn bought lenses and plane tickets. He had been to Africa 4 times before this trip. Kenya twice, Tanzania once, Botswana once. Each time he came back with thousands of photos and a hunger for more. His co-workers at the marketing firm where he worked part-time said he was different after every trip. Quieter, more distant. Like a piece of him stayed behind in the red dirt and acacia trees. His boss once joked that Glenn worked 50 weeks a year just to afford 2 weeks of being truly alive. Glenn didn't laugh.
They say the camera adds 10 pounds.
He just nodded, because it was true. In the office, under fluorescent lights, typing emails about products he didn't care about, Glenn was a ghost. But in the bush, with a camera in his hands and wildlife in his viewfinder, he was electric. He was real. He was home. This trip was supposed to be different, though. Special. Glenn had saved for 2 years to afford it. Not just any safari package, but a private photography safari with one of Kenya's top guides. 10 days in the Masai Mara and Amboseli National Park. Small groups, expert guides, access to areas where the big tour buses couldn't go. It was everything Glenn had dreamed about. He told his mother on the phone 3 days before he left. His voice was bright, boyish, full of excitement she hadn't heard in years. This is the one, Mom, he said. This is where I get the shots that change everything. She told him to be careful. He told her not to worry. The guides know what they're doing.
Honestly,
he said.
The guides here
I'll
are
be
completely
fine.
unnecessary. I'll be fine.
Glenn arrived in Nairobi on a Tuesday morning in late September. The air was thick and warm, smelling of diesel and flowers and something wild he couldn't name. He met his guide at the hotel, a Kenyan man named Joseph, lean and weathered with eyes that had seen more wildlife than most people see in documentaries. Joseph shook Glenn's hand and smiled,
a lot of equipment you're
but his smile faded when he saw the camera bag. 3 lenses, 2 camera bodies, a drone, telephoto equipment that cost more than Joseph's car. You are serious, Joseph said. It wasn't a question. Glenn grinned. I didn't come here to take selfies. Joseph nodded slowly. Then we will find you the elephants, big bulls. Amboseli has the biggest in Kenya. Glenn's heart raced. Perfect. The African elephant is not just an animal, it is a force of nature given flesh and bone. An adult bull can stand 13 feet tall at the shoulder, weigh over 6 tons, more than a pickup truck, more than some cars. Their tusks alone can weigh over 100 pounds each, curved and deadly, capable of piercing a vehicle door like paper. But size is not what makes them dangerous.
We are often struck by
it's
their
intelligence,
sheer scale.
memory, emotion. Elephants are among the most intelligent creatures on Earth. They recognize individual humans. They remember trauma. They mourn their dead. And when threatened, insulted, or provoked, they do not run. They destroy. In Kenya, elephants kill more people each year than lions, leopards, and buffalo combined. Most attacks happen near villages, where elephants raid crops and farmers try to chase them away. But tourist deaths are rarer. Not because elephants tolerate tourists, but because professional guides know the rules. Keep distance. Stay in the vehicle. Never get between a mother and her calf. Never approach a bull in musth. And above all, read the signs. Ears spread wide means aggression. Trunk raised means a warning. A mock charge, where the elephant stops short, means leave now. But a real charge, head down, ears pinned back, trunk curled under, means you are already dead. Glenn knew these rules. He had read the books, watched the documentaries, followed wildlife photographers on Instagram who preach safety first. But knowledge and instinct are two different things. And when the perfect shot is 20 feet away instead of 200, rules start to feel like suggestions. Joseph noticed it on the second day. They were tracking a small herd near a swamp in Amboseli. Glenn kept asking to get closer, just a little closer. The light is perfect. The angle is perfect. Just 10 more feet. Joseph said no. The matriarch was watching them. Her ears flared twice, that was the warning. But Glenn's finger hovered over the shutter button, his breath shallow with anticipation. Joseph put the Land Cruiser in reverse. "We go now," he said firmly. Glenn lowered the camera, disappointed. She wasn't going to charge. Joseph's eyes stayed on the elephant. She was deciding. The pattern repeated over the next few days. Glenn pushed. Joseph pulled back. It became a quiet tension between them. Glenn wasn't rude, but his frustration bled through. He had paid a fortune for this trip. He wanted the shots, the close-ups, the drama, the eyes filling the frame. Joseph tried to explain that the best photographers don't take risks. They take time. Patience gets better shots than proximity. But Glenn had only 10 days. Patience felt like waste. On the 6th day, they found him. The bull. Alone, massive, standing near a grove of fever trees like a monument carved from stone. His tusks were enormous, symmetrical, stained yellow-brown from mud and vegetation. He was at least 50 years old, maybe older, a legend in his own right. Joseph whispered, "That is Kifaru, the old king. He has been here longer than I have been alive."
He has been here
Glenn's
longer
hands
than
trembled
I
as he
have
raised
been
the
alive.
camera. The light was golden, the background perfect. Kifaru's ears flapped lazily, his trunk swayed. Through the 400mm lens, Glenn could see every wrinkle, every scar, the deep intelligence in those ancient eyes. He took 50 photos in 5 minutes, each one perfect. But then Kifaru started walking. Toward them. Not fast, not aggressive, just walking. Curious maybe, or annoyed. Joseph started the engine. "We move." Glenn didn't lower the camera. Wait, he's coming closer. This is incredible." Joseph's voice hardened. "Glenn, we go. Now." But Glenn was already out of the vehicle. He moved quickly, crouching low, camera raised, circling to get the light behind Kifaru's head. The shot of a lifetime. Joseph shouted. Kifaru stopped, his ears spread, trunk raised. For 5 seconds the world held its breath. Glenn's shutter clicked. Once, twice. Kifaru's head lowered, ears pinned back. And then the old king charged. Not a mock charge, a real one. 6 tons of fury and bone and ancient rage thundering forward with speed that defied logic. Glenn ran. But you cannot outrun an elephant, not even close. Kifaru closed the distance in seconds. His trunk lashed out, caught Glenn across the chest and sent him spinning into the dirt. The camera flew from his hands. Glenn tried to scream, but the air was gone from his lungs. He rolled, gasping, vision blurred. Kifaru loomed above him, massive, unstoppable. And then the world went dark under the shadow of a descending foot. Joseph screamed. He blared the horn, revved the engine, anything to distract Kifaru. The elephant paused, looked toward the noise, then back at Glenn. His foot came down, not on Glenn's body, but inches away. A warning, a message. Kifaru turned and walked away, slow and deliberate, as if nothing had happened. Joseph jumped from the vehicle and ran to Glenn. He was alive, barely. His chest was caved in, ribs shattered, blood poured from his mouth. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring up at the sky where vultures were already beginning to circle. Joseph pulled out his radio with shaking hands. "We need emergency airlift. Amboseli, Sector 7. Tourist down. Elephant attack. Critical." The response took 11 minutes. In the wild, 11 minutes is a lifetime. Joseph knelt beside Glenn, trying to keep him conscious, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much. Internal injuries, punctured lungs, maybe worse. Glenn's lips moved. Joseph leaned close. "Camera," Glenn whispered. His voice was wet, broken. "Did I get the shot?" Joseph looked at the camera lying in the dust 10 feet away. Lens cracked, body shattered. He looked back at Glenn. "Yes," Joseph lied. "You got it." Glenn smiled, blood on his teeth, and then he stopped breathing. The helicopter arrived 7 minutes later. A doctor and 2 paramedics jumped out, medical kits in hand. They worked fast. Chest compressions, intubation, adrenaline. But Glenn was gone. His body was still warm, but the light behind his eyes had vanished somewhere between the shutter click and the elephant's trumpet. They loaded him onto a stretcher anyway. Procedure. Protocol. Joseph stood beside the Land Cruiser, hands still shaking, staring at the place where Kifaru had disappeared into the bush. The old king had not killed out of hunger or madness. He had killed because a line was crossed, a boundary violated. In that moment, Kifaru was not a monster. He was the land itself, saying enough. The news spread fast. Local radio picked it up first. Australian tourist killed in elephant attack at Amboseli National Park. Then the international outlets, CNN, BBC, the Sydney Morning Herald. Glenn's face was everywhere, the smiling photo from his travel visa. The headlines were predictable. Tragic safari accident claims photographer's life. Elephant attack turns dream vacation deadly. His mother learned about it from a phone call, not from the tour company, not from the embassy, from a neighbor who saw it on the news. She collapsed in her kitchen, the same kitchen where Glenn had called her 2 weeks earlier, voice bright with excitement, promising he'd bring her back photos she wouldn't believe. The autopsy was performed in Nairobi. Cause of death: massive internal trauma consistent with trampling by a large animal, 14 broken ribs, collapsed lungs, ruptured spleen, fractured pelvis. The doctor who signed the report had seen this before, 3 times in his career. It was always the same. Tourists who thought they knew better. Guides who couldn't say no loud enough. Animals who were only doing what animals do. There was no villain in these stories, only tragedy. The Kenyan Wildlife Service launched an investigation. Standard procedure. They interviewed Joseph for 4 hours. Was the tourist warned? Yes. Multiple times. Did he disobey instructions? Yes. Was the guide negligent? The investigator paused, looked at Joseph's red eyes, and closed his notebook. No, case closed. But the internet had other ideas. The story went viral. Comment sections exploded. Half the people blamed Glenn. Stupid tourist. Ignored the guide. Got what he deserved. The other half blamed Kenya, unsafe parks, poor regulations. Why wasn't the elephant controlled? A petition started online to have Kifaru relocated or euthanized. It gained 12,000 signatures in 3 days. The Kenya Wildlife Service released a statement. The elephant was not at fault. It acted in self-defense against a perceived threat. No action will be taken against the animal. The backlash was immediate. Glenn's family was devastated. His mother appeared on Australian television, tears streaming down her face. "My son made a mistake," she said, "but he didn't deserve to die." 3 weeks after the attack, Glenn's body was flown home to Adelaide. The funeral was small. Family, a few co-workers, some old friends from university who hadn't spoken to him in years. His camera gear was returned in a sealed box. His mother couldn't bring herself to open it. His father did, late one night, alone in the garage. Inside was the shattered camera body, the cracked lens, and, miraculously, the memory card, still intact. He pulled it out, held it up to the light, and wondered. The next day, he took it to a photo lab. They recovered the files. 87 images from that final day, elephants at dawn, acacia trees against the sky, and 12 photos of Kifaru. Majestic, powerful, close enough to see the soul behind the eyes. The last photo was blurred. Motion, chaos. The moment before everything ended. His father looked at that photo for a long time. Then he closed the laptop and never opened the files again. Back in Amboseli, life continued. Kifaru still roams the park. Guides still point him out to tourists, though they keep their distance now. Joseph still works as a safari guide, but something changed in him. He is more cautious, more firm. When tourists ask to get closer, he says no without explanation. Some complain, some leave bad reviews. He doesn't care. Because he knows the truth that Glenn learned too late. Nature is not a backdrop. It is not a stage set for your perfect photograph or your Instagram feed. It is a living, breathing, untamed force that does not care about your dreams or your deadlines or your artistic vision. It has its own rules, and if you break them, it will break you. Glenn Turner died chasing a moment. A photograph, a piece of eternity. He wanted to be remembered as a great wildlife photographer, and in a way, he is remembered, but not for his art, for his mistake. His story is told in safari camps and photography forums as a cautionary tale. The man who got too close, the man who thought he knew better, and somewhere, in the dry plains of Amboseli, an old bull elephant stands beneath a fever tree, ears flapping in the wind, completely unaware that he is part of a tragedy humans will talk about for years. To Kifaru, it was just another day, another threat, another boundary defended. To Glenn's family, it was the day the world ended. There is a lesson buried in the red dust of that Kenyan afternoon. It is not about elephants. It is not about photography. It is about respect, about humility, about understanding that we are visitors in spaces where we do not make the rules. The wild does not owe us beauty or safety or forgiveness. It simply exists, magnificent, dangerous, indifferent. And when we forget that, when we let our desire for more, for closer, for better, override our instinct for survival, nature reminds us in the cruelest way possible. Glenn Turner got his perfect shot. It cost him everything. And in the end, no photograph is worth a life. No image is worth never going home. The wild is not here for us. We are only here because it allows us to be. And the moment we forget that, the moment we step too close, the dream dies. And sometimes, so do we. Safety or forgiveness, it simply exists. Magnificent, dangerous, indifferent. And when we forget that, when we let our desire for more, for closer, for better, override our instinct for survival, nature reminds us in the cruelest way possible. Glenn Turner got his perfect shot. It cost him everything. And in the end, no photograph is worth a life. No image is worth never going home. The wild is not here for us. We are only here because it allows us to be. And the moment we forget that, the moment we step too close, the dream dies. And sometimes, so do we.